All right, so that's it for the media portion. Now we will focus in on the Penn State portion. So we asked you four questions, and then also asked for some feedback. And I'm going to read a couple of the feedbacks at the end here. But I want to start with the first question, which was: did Penn State overachieve, underachieve, or meet your preseason expectations? What would you have answered? What did you answer for
I
this one?
put met my expectations, right? Because I figured they'd be 10-2. I mean,
Okay.
I said 11-1, but realistically, we're used to 10-2, so I put met my expectations.
Okay. I still have not decided how I would answer this, and I think maybe I'm in the TBD until the bowl game. Um,
Was that an option in the question? So
that
so
was an
wait,
option.
you're baking the question for you. Oh, it was an option. Okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah, it was an option.
okay. No, I
So
think I put. I mean, even though we talked 11-1 here, I thought deep cleansing breath met my expectations because that's what they do.
I think that's fair. I think that's a generally more in that land of late, as I've kind of had time to think
So
about
who
it.
thought? How many people thought they underachieved? What was the biggest one?
So 50 the winner of this question, so to speak, was 51% of people said that Penn State met their expectations this
Okay,
season,
so we're all happy
which
with 10-2 mediocrity.
isn't that surprising, but also feels surprising, maybe just because of the vocal minority, I guess would be the best way to
Maybe
say it.
so, or maybe this is
Um,
just an island of positivity.
maybe. Well, I don't know though,
Well,
because
it's only
they're
it's only half an island because it's 51%. We got 1 foot on the
36%.
ground, 1 foot in the sand, and 1 foot in the water.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
36% said Penn State underachieved,
Oh,
and then
shark circling.
11% said they will not decide until after the bowl game.
Okay.
So
So we still could be, yeah, 51,
it's
almost 49 kind of thing.
yeah. Now three people said they overachieved. So
Okay.
good for them. Good for those three people.
Told you it was an
So
island of positivity. They're probably the king and queens of the island, king and queens and or of our island of positivity.
I I I
Thank you if
I
you're still out there for those
I
positive people. We need
think
people like you in the world.
I think I think the biggest takeaway from this survey, and we'll get to this as we go through these results, were how rational it was. Because I don't know. I just feel like a lot of times people of Penn State football aren't rational, and I was very surprised by that. All right. So our next question was: how confident are you that Penn State will make the playoff in 2024? I'm going to put a five, just because I think
Well,
pretty
that was a one
confident.
through five stars.
Yeah, it
One
was
through
a one
five
through
stars.
five
I
again.
had a three.
Okay, you had a three. The average rating was a 3.8. So keep
Okay.
that
So
in
people
mind.
are fairly confident.
70% of people answered four or above.
Okay. So people expect that to happen.
And then four was the most answered at 41%.
Okay.
So that sets the table there. The next question was: how confident are you, 1 to 5, that Penn State can win a national title under James Franklin? We had answers everywhere across the board on this one. It was a 3.1 average. So
Okay. I think I had a three.
I think I put a 4 on this one. 20 the leading answer was 3 at 27%, 4 at 24%, 2 at 21%, and 5 at 17%. So really all over the board there. I
How many
think
at one? How many at one? Anybody said no?
there were, I guess, they're probably about 6% off the top of my head
Okay.
doing the math
Wow. So
here.
nobody adamantly negative. Okay. As we
Yeah,
talked about. Okay.
yeah. So again, very surprised. Now the question that you posed to me that derailed last week's podcast was: how confident are you in your lifetime that Penn State can win a national title? Parentheses again. Again, the number 1 to 5 question. It was the average answer was pretty much in the middle at 3.5. Um,
Wow. Okay. I had like I think mine was a two. Like I think I was milk toast medium 3-3-3 two for this one.
okay.
So
The leading answer was 5 at 30%.
wow. God bless people.
And then all the way at the other end of
Well,
the
again,
spectrum,
we should have asked how old they are.
we should have asked that one.
Sorry. I mean, I'm not. There's probably all these young optimistic people like you were like, yeah, I got
Uh,
30 years left. We're in good shape.
I don't know. I don't know. Judging by some of the comments, I don't think it was all young people. And then
Those peacock
10%.
people aren't young, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 10% said one.
Okay.
So really all across the board. And I'm pretty sure that one just went from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in terms of
Yep.
order.
Makes
So
sense.
so I
That's
want to
cool.
Yeah, let me run through the feedback here because I think there's some good stuff in again, very rational takes. There weren't irrational ones, but there were quite a few rational takes in here. To the first question, they met. If they win a New Year's Six, if they would, they overachieve. I think people are really underrating the idea that things are always evolving, and that tends to change which schools dominate the landscape. Just ask Nebraska and Miami and USC for that matter, or Georgia in the other direction. I think a lot of structural changes are either made here already or are on the way, both nationally and in the Big Ten, can help Penn State inch closer to a national title. So again,
That's
um,
fair.
I like Coach James Franklin, want to keep him. I think he's a good coach and a good fit for us in the new college football landscape. That kind of messaging came up a couple times, like people saying, he might not be like the best coach in terms of decision making, but in terms of dealing with everything that goes along with being a college football coach, he's doing a good job at that. So that was
Okay.
interesting.
Which is what the common accepted thing. Administrator slash CEO, yes.
Yeah,
4th and 5,
no,
no.
which I think is very fair. And I think this year for me a lot, that's where a lot of the failings happen. I think this is a good one. I live in fear of Penn State firing Franklin and becoming Nebraska, which I think that's probably my biggest fear. Um, this one was really interesting because I have been kind of thinking about this, and this goes back to our preseason question in terms of expectations. Um, and this person said, I hate when sports reporters, etc., hype up Penn State preseason. I'd rather us be overlooked and then show how amazing we are. I think the hype sets up certain fans' expectations, and then they get mad when the team doesn't win a championship. I think that is very fair this year. And I think some of that, obviously, like collectively, we kind of sort of contributed to that. I said Penn State was going to be 11-1 this year. I think some of that also like kind of really follows Drew Aller. Like I feel like that kind of fits in. Like you could just replace Drew Aller with that, and like he didn't quite take that step, and I think that's kind of the crux of this season. But he wasn't bad either. So it's
No,
maybe
and I
not a
think it's all, I mean, it's the way the media works in college football in general that leads itself to this stuff
Mhm.
because of limited access. And we can talk about that. But it just, you're getting fed information or you're watching recruiting information. Look, I thought Dante Cephas, the way people were talking about this kid transferring in, I don't watch a lot of games. I trust the people who supposedly know what they're doing from the fan side of me. I thought Dante Cephas was coming in and making an impact. Turns out, no, right? And had he done that in any meaningful way, or some receivers done that in any meaningful way, maybe there's one more win, right?
Right.
I mean, not that it's all on them, but that's just one sample example of a storyline that I think fans get and will happen in this next recruiting cycle now with the transfer portal. Oh, they got this guy to solve this solution, and that's what they're going to know is the story until it plays out on the field, and we won't know till next October if it really matters when they play some
Right.
meaningful games.
Well, and I think that goes back to like the crux of what I wrote about after the Michigan game, slash even like with why I haven't really written about the new OC. Um, Mainly because I just kind of need to see it play out. Like we bought into the Mike Yursich hype, and it just kind of didn't happen. Like it never clicked the way we thought it was going to click. Um, and I think that is, yeah, I think Dante Cephas is a good another microcosm. So I thought that was a really like that person really kind of that was a very thoughtful answer, I think, in this question. So shout out to that person. Um, I think this one's a good one in terms of the negative aspect, or at least I don't want to give you all positive stuff here, but don't care about non-CFB Bowls results. Opt out, okay, in my opinion. Top 25 Power 5 programs are essentially the NFL minors. And actually, like James Franklin's developmental approach to bowl prep, focusing on the young guys. And I do think that's interesting, just because I think I wonder I think that about that a lot in the context of opt outs because I think this is the perfect time. Like, use why wouldn't you use this as essentially your spring practice before your spring practice almost? Because what are you
I mean,
gonna change?
Right. And at this point, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, I mean, fans want you to win. You want to go down and perform well, but it doesn't mean a darn thing. Like, so if the 15 practices, which everybody has learned over the past 20 years of bowl games, you get 15 practices, they're the most meaningful thing. But if they are, then use them. Go ahead and get some
Yeah.
reps for some younger kids. Keep your people healthy enough. Your football players who are studs aren't going to forget how to play between now and the game if they don't get as many reps. And improve your program. Focus on
Yeah.
stuff you have to do, look at process stuff, self-scout, self-evaluate in terms of operations, those kind of things. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think we get caught up in winning and losing bowl games. If you're not playing for the national championship, it really doesn't matter. You know, However you can get better to improve your program. I mean, you don't want to get blown out, and I don't think they will. But if there's things that you can do during practices that help you for the future more so than worrying about what's happening December 30th, I don't think that's an error in judgment.
No, and I think honestly, going back to what we were talking about earlier, and this will come up in the next point, but the only bowl that is not a playoff bowl, and it only probably matters to one existing conference and now one gone conference was the Rose Bowl, right? Like winning the Rose Bowl, I think means a little bit more than Penn State winning the Fiesta Bowl, Cotton Bowl over the last, like, you're always going to kind of say, okay, like, just because of what the Rose Bowl itself means to the culture and fabric of America, at least
Yeah,
in my
I think
opinion.
in terms of playoff in general, that's been the biggest, one of the biggest traditional losses for college football was the Rose Bowl meaning something as a standalone entity, right?
Right,
And that's shame, but now it's just another playoff game.
right, right.
Every
And I
every
think
so
it's
many
only going
years
to
it'll
get
be the
worse.
game, but yeah.
Yeah. So going back to our earlier discussion, I think this person, I'm interested to hear what your opinion is on this person. We've got two more of these. Athletes receiving NIL money should be required to opt in for the bowl games. Thoughts?
That's not bad.
That's kind of how I
I
felt about
guess
it
that's
too.
interesting. Yeah, sure.
That's why I pulled that one out because I kind of thought that makes kind of sense. Um,
So if they opt in, then they get more money. Like, I mean, I guess
I guess you
I'm
would. I
opting in
guess
for what, right?
yeah. Like I guess you probably.
But here's the thing: they're all getting NIL money. I mean, anymore. They're all getting consortium money anymore,
Okay,
right? I
that's
mean,
fair.
every player is making five figures. Every player on the Penn State football roster is making five figures from consortium money.
Right, which is fair. So
So I think that's the bugaboo in all this NIL stuff that people just don't know. The general fans don't know is like they're all getting what's ostensibly
right.
NIL money. It's all pay for play. And in terms of media, I think that's one of the things because it wasn't reported, because people don't share numbers, because they're told not to talk about it. That's one of my disappointments in terms of the media now in the NIL landscape is I think that's fair information. I mean, it's private information, but I think the context of it that everybody's getting money, people should more widely understand.
I think it. I just and I understand why it's not, and maybe I just don't know enough about it. But NIL should almost be like 501c. Like you should be able to essentially just get that and see it that way. Like, um,
I'm not begrudging them the money. I'll come with you on your part of the island where they deserve to get something. But I think people miss the fact, and I think there's a decent size of college football fans, decent portion of college football fans across the country who don't like, oh, they're getting paid?
yeah.
All of them. Beyond a scholarship. They are? Oh, okay.
Well, okay. Let's. Do you think every player at San Jose State is getting played? Is getting
I think
paid though?
everybody that's in the top 12 is getting paid.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. No, that's accurate. So,
I don't care
and I
about San
think,
Jose State. I mean, I respect them, but I don't.
and I guess what I'm getting at here is like, let's let. I think it just should be level set. Like, I think if you are a Power Five, it should be baseline. Here's $20,000 that you get in addition to your scholarship, and $10,000 that you get is in addition to your preferred walk on or being a walk on. And then we get to like San Jose State or Arkansas State or insert
I
MAC
think
team
they'd be
here.
wise to do that because if they don't, and now I know we're getting off, but I mean, I think if they do that, that's going to head off some stuff down the road with them wanting more money out of stuff, right? Like I think if they
Yeah,
set a baseline and a salary scale, right, or this is what they get, then they might not have people coming back for them saying, "Hey, where's my TV money? We got 60 more administrators. Where's my money?" I think they'd be smart to be ahead of the game, or they're going to be in trouble. They're not going to be in trouble. They're just going to pay more money.
No, I
So
think that's fair. I think that's fair. All right. And the last thing, I just want to end on this. I thought that was a good one to end. It could be worse. You could be a Pitt fan. So I thought that was very
yes, we
appropriate.
got all the right fans listening to the show. That's wonderful.
That's all that matters.
I do feel for them a little bit,
Just a little bit. Just a little
just
bit.
a little bit.
I
Happy, I'm
I
happy for former Pitt coach Kurt Signetti, who's now the Indiana coach. Like it's just those people you meet through that stuff. So I would love Pitt to be good. I would, and we'll talk about that in a future podcast, I'm sure, hinting at what we got coming forward in terms of guests for talking rivalries and whatever else. I would love for Pitt to be
okay.
good.
All right.
You don't care, but I would love for them to be good.
I know. It means something to you because you're the old guy here.
Old and
All right.
crotchety.